Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Church Leadership Lab, where we have conversations that help empower healthy churches. We are glad to be with you again. My name is Scott, half of your host, and this is Casey, the other half. Hey, Casey.
The other half. I wish there were my middle name, like Casey, the other half, Frazier.
The other half, yes. I'm going to put in on my LinkedIn 0.5 host, like just.
I like that.
Yeah, it's not a full host, but just 0.5.
I think we'll see. I think that would get some questions. Like,
That's
Scott,
true.
Think higher of yourself.
Right. We should say, we have two hosts. You don't have co-hosts. You have two hosts.
I like that. You're not anything, Scott. You are one whole by yourself.
See, there you go. Right back at you. Well, we had I think the honor, privilege, the joy, the fun, all the words,
all the things
of recently being at a conference and actually got to have some conversations with people in person. I know that we do a lot of these virtually, which is great. Right now you're in Oklahoma. I'm in Illinois, Chicago area. So that part's awesome that we can connect with people anywhere and have these conversations. But it is also really fun to be in person, sit across from, the folks that we got to sit down with and chat with. So I don't know about you, but I really enjoyed having these conversations.
I loved that they're a lot more spontaneous. Like, we do prepare a little bit. So our guests, they don't know everything we're going to talk about, but they have a pretty good idea. But in person, it's like, hey, we are literally going to ask you whatever we want.
Totally.
I like that.
But there is something that happens in conversation naturally. Like, I think that's probably a little easier where you can, I don't know, just you're having a conversation. So your mind starts to think about, oh, well, what about this? And what about this? And, so I think that was really, really fun as well.
I like it. Human interaction. Who knew?
Yeah. Who knew how great it could be? Well, this episode, we were able to sit down and talk with Mark MacDonald. Now, Mark is brand strategist for BeKnownForSomething.com, a national church communication and branding agency. He's coaching pastors and churches really to become more relevant in their communities and to reach people. He's the best-selling author of Be Known for Something, which you can find at beknownbook.com. Has written 800 plus articles and is the executive director of the Center for Church Communications. Mark has over 35 years of serving in a variety of roles as pastor, as a marketing VP, creative director, strategist in multiple organizations. He and Tammy, his wife of 32 years, have two grown sons in Calgary and Nashville. And we had a really good time sitting down with Mark to talk about all things communications, all things how do you get people to hear what you're saying, and how ultimately do you be known for something. So enjoy this conversation with Mark MacDonald. Well, Mark, thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us today. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is a crazy hall that we're in.
I know.
And all I know is that in the middle of one of your questions, someone's going to go running by with a dog over their head or something.
I hope so.
Easily, yeah. Or somehow think like coming right through here in front of the camera is like the only way to make it through.
Probably.
The best
Excuse me.
Oh,
so
sorry.
If a head
you're
comes in front of the
recording.
camera.
I didn't notice the camera there.
Exactly, yeah.
Hello, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've shared your the bio that makes the back of the book or the conference pamphlet or whatever pamphlet. I don't think they hand out pamphlets
Man,
anymore.
I hope so.
Oh, no. Churches hand out pamphlets.
Yeah.
Is it a pamphlet or bulletin?
Yeah. We'll get to that. But what's something that doesn't make the public bio, but all your friends and family know about you?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad you asked. No. It's just crazy. So I'm from East Coast Canada. I still think of myself as a little kid from East Coast Canada. It's crazy how many things have happened in my life that now when I look back over that life, wow, that sounds like I'm at a funeral. But I see that all of those individual things kind of have lined up and God's used them.
Yeah.
Probably the thing that I don't talk, there's two things actually. Oh, I shouldn't have said two things.
Well, now you have to.
Here we go, yeah.
Stuck.
So the first thing is, so I recorded an album at the Gaither Studios with Sandy Patty producers.
Wow.
And I sang 300 concerts over a 10-year period, solo concerts throughout New England.
No way.
And,
that's awesome.
But what was really crazy is that God used that time for me to stand up in front of people and not be like nervous out of my mind.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. And then the other thing that was just a stupid thing, I actually still have an agent, and I model and act, and I have been in a movie and
I love it.
Can you
Ford
tell us
car commercial?
Can you name them?
No.
We can't talk about that here.
No. I would have to pay them, or they'd have to pay me.
All right, we can Google it later. Maybe
we'll offer a free sponsorship of the podcast.
Yes. Well, and the interesting thing about that is that I get to go on set and kind of work with some pretty big name producers and art directors, and the things that I have been able to do over my life, I get to watch how other people do them, and I can learn an awful lot from that.
That's awesome.
It's very cool.
These are fun facts.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are talking about all things communication, and that's something that I know that often with churches, that's something that isn't really intentionally thought about, or a plan is made, maybe until they're of a certain size. But why is that something that is just essential for churches to really think about, regardless of the size, regardless of the stage? Help us understand a little bit of why that matters so much.
Man, there's so many different directions we could take here, because most churches today think, well, if we speak, people will listen.
Yeah.
And the problem is that people have just stopped listening.
Yeah.
And that the ignoring that's happening today, all I can see is, again, over the 30 years that I've worked in this industry, it's just gotten louder and louder and louder. We used to talk all the time about, how many marketing messages someone receives during the day. Well, now it's like exponential. Oftentimes I'll be speaking with a pastor, and I'll say, like, how many emails do you get on a regular basis? And then they flip open their email, and I'll see like they have 53,000 emails in their inbox.
Yeah. Everybody from Home Depot to Chili's,
exactly.
emailing out.
And I think Harvard said that the average person has 200 unanswered emails in an inbox.
Oh, I have way more than that.
Oh,
gives me anxiety. I don't like that.
I'm a zero inbox
Me too.
person.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Teach me your ways, oh gentlemen.
Yeah.
Well, but because of all of that communication that's just being pushed to us, and everybody thinks that what they've created is the most important thing that they've ever, everybody needs to know this. Everyone wants the loudest voice, so they push it as the loudest voice. And the only way we can survive in this world is ignoring emails.
Yep. Because it's just noise.
I'll give you counseling later.
I need it bad.
Or it's just tuning out what we think might not be important to us.
Yeah.
And right now in our world, the community has tuned out the church because they just don't think it's important at all.
It's too much. How do you even hear it?
Yeah, exactly. So what we want to try to do, that communication strategy.
Yeah.
Is just really how do you, as a pastor, how do you actually be heard?
Yeah.
And by tiering and like there's the whole process. Just trying to make sure that when you take the time to produce something that you want to be heard, it will actually be heard. So whatever size church you're at, everyone has the same problem.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, and that's something too that I know we've talked about, that it's sometimes the word marketing is heard or used, and there's a sense in which it's always sales and marketing, right? And so I know even at my time as a pastor, I've heard that word, and like, I'm not selling something, I'm not a salesman, so marketing doesn't apply. And I think that it's important to understand that there's just some plain mechanics of how do you communicate and get a message in front of somebody so that they understand and comprehend it.
Well, oftentimes, even thinking about marketing, and I know I have been told, I have been given the stiff arm of, we don't need marketing, we're the church.
Yeah.
But the problem is, like, that whole idea of marketing is really somebody has a product or a service and they look and think that market needs that product or service. So all marketing is taking your product to that market so that they'll receive the product.
Yeah.
It's like, as a church, do we have a product or a service? I mean, we have the best product, quote unquote, which is Jesus Christ. The blood of the gospel that is like will save people from their sins.
Right.
I mean, that is so huge. And is there a market?
Yeah.
And that's really what Jesus was talking about when he said, "Go into all the world." And the thing is that marketing is evangelism when it goes to the church.
Yeah.
So I just want all churches. How do you effectively take communication to the market, the world that needs Jesus Christ?
Yeah.
100%. Well, what are some ways? I think one of the things that we really love doing is ensuring that there are some kind of practical takeaways. For churches and church leaders. And so some are maybe listening to this and would acknowledge, our communication maybe isn't where it needs to be.
Right.
What have you seen? What's some low-hanging fruit, maybe some first steps that people can take to start to move the needle in the right direction?
Sure. So getting back to the person who creates the event will think it's the most important event in your church.
Right.
So you create this event and then you think, okay, well, we got to tell everybody about it. I would recommend that all churches tier their events. So tier 1 is like the big event for your church. So if you say it to anybody in the church, you will not get that's not going to be for me.
Right.
So everyone's invited. So an all church event. And then tier 2 is an all ministry event. So it's like all the kids ministry, all the student ministry. And then 3 is anything that's less than that. So it's just a crazy tip, but when you give announcements in your church, or if you list announcements in your bulletin,
there it is.
Start with tier 1. Always start with tier 1.
Yeah.
And then when you go to tier 2, you will lose some people because they're not going to be interested, but it's not bringing them back. What oftentimes, I get to do mystery visits across the country, and I'll stand or sit or watch the video, loop at the beginning of the service. And there's so many things that I'm not interested in, so you just don't pay attention.
Yeah.
Right.
And then 3/4 of the way through, boom, here's an all church event that we want you to come to, and most people have already tuned out.
Yeah.
So just that little nuance of what you can actually have in your announcement time. Don't make anyone bored with your announcements.
Yeah. Don't bore people.
And we could unpack that even further if you want to, because
go for it. Yeah.
Some of those announcements that don't give all the details for an announcement. Instead, give them the reason why they need to be there, and then say, and you want all the details, well, then go to our website.
Here's where to go to find
the
boring bits.
Well,
exactly.
Because again, this is where there's some psychological things just in how we communicate. When there's that open loop, right? So it's hey, if you want to find out more, if you want to get the details, if you create sort of that open loop around, there's something that I need to close this loop, it does actually help just psychologically for people then to follow through with that and to say, well, I want to know what the answer to that is. And again, we're not talking about manipulation, we're not talking about anything like that, but just understanding that there are some basic ways that our brains work that I think when you understand, you can use to ensure that you're communicating, in an effective way.
Because the person who's making the announcement already knows what the announcement's going to be about.
Right.
They know what they're driving towards. But oftentimes, it just takes a second in the congregation to go, oh, wow, they're doing a buffet. That just came to mind.
I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey,
let's bring on
hot
the food.
tip. Yeah,
exactly.
Maybe potluck's out, buffet's in. You know what I mean?
Yes, just change the utensils on a regular basis.
I like it.
The foodborne illness is going to be too out of control. Yeah.
But as soon as you mention whatever that big event is, it takes a couple of seconds for it just to be processed of, whoa, that would be actually fun. Yeah, you know what? We probably should. And like they're internalizing all of this information. Meanwhile, the person's blathering on about
it's in this room on this date, and here's a deal. I literally did not hear it.
Exactly.
On a physiological level.
And that's usually when I lean over to my wife and say, "So when is that?" Because I was processing. Oh yeah, and I have a business thing happening,
and I'm like, oh, so and so would love to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So instead, it's like calm everything down.
Yeah.
Just give them a little bit of information, and your website should be good in all of your churches. That's something we can unpack too. But it's so good that you can just say, and of course, if you want to know anything about any of these events or other events that are happening, just go to our website.
What's that consistency, right? Like it's here's why this should matter. And like you said, and here's where to go to find it. And you're always doing that. So you're kind of creating some little behavior patterns. But
oh my goodness.
I don't know if this is relevant, but just this week, I heard that 50% of people don't have an inner dialogue.
What?
I know, right?
Wow.
I know.
Well, I know which 50%
I know, like, there is so much dialogue all the time. But when you were saying that,
Must
I was like,
nice.
Yeah, I know. I mean, is it just silence?
I don't know. It sounds so peaceful, but it makes so much sense if you think about it that way. Like, if as you're announcing something that you know is super important, my inner dialogue has quite literally tuned you out.
Oh, absolutely.
The thoughts in my head are so much louder.
My inner dialogue is so loud that my wife hears it oftentimes.
But if I know, as my inner dialogue has muted you, I'll go to the website, which is clean, and but I know that I need to go there for something. So.
But if your website's broken, do not send them to your website.
Yeah.
And the problem is that they'll just want to go to the trusted source, and every church, it's just a great tip. Have the trusted source. And if it happens to be a print bulletin right now, you might want to rethink that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have a recovery session for those folks later too. But I'm curious, when you say go to our website, I feel like that's such a vague thing that a lot of church leaders just think that that's enough.
Right.
And we don't go to our own websites and go, if I didn't know about this event, if I just went to our website, would I even know where to click? So there's some like directional things that I sometimes think are lacking.
Wow. So what I have found as I've worked with a lot of churches, it's very rare that the pastor has actually been to his website for quite some time.
That's right.
And the moment that he's tried to find something, he hasn't found it either. So he just trusts that, I'm sure it's on that website. Yeah. So I strongly urge anyone who's making an announcement to actually know where it is. And if you get that sixth sense that people are going, wonder where that would be, that you can say, and then just click on the events tab or just click on the calendar tab. And because that's one of the, like we always talk about the 4 pages that you absolutely have to have really good on your website. Yeah. And one of them is your events page. And it's hard. Like it's just tough to get your events all on there. It could say events or it could say calendar. And then you just say, go to our website, click on the calendar tab.
Yeah.
Or, well, a lot of churches have like their the tier 1 events, like the next 2 or 3 that are there.
Yeah.
Do not go past 2 or 3. Like I've seen some that have like the complete listing.
Yeah. Well, I think that harkens back to, I think, a point, harkens.
I love that you just used that word.
Yeah.
I mean, were you over at a seminary booth before coming here?
Yeah, no kidding.
What is happening?
Hey, I have 0 degrees, but sometimes I can speak as though I do.
Hark.
Yeah. Hark. What it reminds me of.
No, go. Stick with it.
No, harkens.
Okay, all right. What it harkens back to me at least, is like having a lot of empathy in what you're in communication. And I guess what I mean by that is, can you put yourself in your audience's shoes to hear what you're going to say and to feel what they might feel, and to do what they might do, and how would they respond? Because often I think we just go top down. What do I want to say? How do I want to say it? Great. Like, I'm going to now say that and let it fall onto those people, versus bottom up to say, where are these people at? What do they need to hear? How would, for, our men's breakfast or for whatever, how would they need to hear this in a way to feel, wow, I'm actually really excited about that. I need to find out more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, I always keep saying we need to advocate for our audience. That was harder. I usually say it, and I just stumbled over it. So we have to advocate for our audience, and like every pastor, like there's so many solo pastors that are out there that are in charge of their own communication. It's really hard to take a step away,
right,
and just say, so how would I have received that?
Yeah.
And that's why you need to be able to identify who is typically receiving it, which we call personas, just that stereotypical group that you're going to be talking to.
Yep.
How would they receive it? And therein lies probably the best reason for having a communications director or a communications coordinator or a volunteer who is astute. Yeah. There's a word too.
Yeah. I like that one.
That really understands communication principles, so that they can, after the service, say, Pastor, it was such a great point, but I'm not sure whether anyone got that or not. And that's hard to hear sometimes, but having that, I'm a speaker. Like, I love having someone say, so you mentioned this, I have no idea what you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, let's back that up. And then like I go to my notes and I make sure that I, explain it a little bit better so I don't leave people behind, because we just have to always advocate. Always go back to what your audience is thinking.
Yeah.
Well, if I clearly care about something so much that I want people to understand it, I want them to be as excited about X as I was.
Right.
But if someone would tell me, hey, I didn't get it, that hurts, but I'd also be so bummed out. I'm like, all right, how can I make that better so that they understand how great this is?
Yeah.
Because I clearly totally bombed that.
And sometimes you think, man, I nailed it. And then I sit down and someone tells me, not sure whether that landed. And
you did. Yeah.
And then the internal voice starts yelling.
Yeah. Well, you just mentioned specifically churches with solo pastor. I know there's probably a lot listening too where bivocational, they don't, have a team at all. So specifically for a church that might be in that situation, or a smaller church that's like, communications director would be great. I wish I had a volunteer. I don't. What would you say are, and maybe they look at communication like, I can't do all of this, right? But I can do a couple things. What would you say are kind of the essential channels or things to focus on, whether that's websites, social media, email? I think bulletins off the list. We can confidently cross that one off.
I see that hand.
Yes.
We're going to have an altar call at the end.
Beautiful reference. And another. Yeah. But what would you say are some of those, if it's like, I can only do a couple things, what should they do?
Back in the day, like before me, I know that's like BC. No,
do we need to harken back to it?
Exactly. In the yesteryear.
Yeah,
that's a really
good one.
So, but before, I mean, it used to be church communication was changing the church sign.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So people would drive by, and then it became, oh no, you have to have a Yellow Pages ad.
Yeah.
And that's when I entered the scene. Everyone was like, do you do Yellow Page ads? And it's like, yeah, we'll even do a Yellow Page ad for you.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, things have just gotten so complex, and like, just you mentioning, websites, social media, email blasts, bulletins, print stuff, like newsletter, all of those things. It's like, which one should you do? That's hard to say, and that's the problem. It's kind of like if you choose one social media channel, Mildred from your congregation is going to come up and go, I'm not on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like, would you please do something on Facebook?
Yeah.
And it's like, sure. So should you switch everything over to Facebook? And therein lies like the full complexity of communication, because everyone wants everything the way that they want it.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned is that the old school print hub, where everything goes back to the bulletin. If you ever wonder, like, go look at the bulletin, it has now shifted in the entire world, except for the church for some reason, has shifted to the digital hub. And that digital hub relies incredibly hard on the website as the center of that, and everything rotates around it.
Yeah.
So if you're only going to do one, do website.
Yeah.
But then you probably will want to add some other things and that point to the website, and use those things just to point to the
Leading
website.
To it.
Yeah, exactly. And then have most of your content on the website.
Yeah, that's good. I think there's another route though that churches can take. So if they realize we need these things, or we even need help with strategy, thinking about what to do, again, they can take that on and run with that, or they can seek help outside of themselves. I know that you work with churches all the time in regards to communications, branding. How do you show up digitally? How do you communicate? How do you do all of that? So what are some of those advantages of maybe saying, you know what, we're not going to try and take this on. We're actually going to get some help with this and going that route.
Yeah, and a lot of times it just comes down to budget.
Sure.
But the crazy part about this noise, like all this communication that people are doing so much for free.
Yeah.
And so as much as possible, keep up with all the communication freebies that are out there. If you don't have budget, the moment that you do have budget, it is worth it. And I know it feels a little self-serving because, that's what we do. And I would love to come alongside of a church. But the thing is that there's lots of people out there.
Yeah.
And just figure, what does my budget allow? Fix your website. We would also say that, like, as a church brand, most people think, oh yeah, church brand, I have a mission, vision, and values statement.
Sure.
Or, have you seen my logo?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not your brand. Your brand has to be an outward facing, what we call the thread that kind of ties everything together. So it's what you become known for.
Yeah.
And if you can just figure out what that one thread is, you'll actually say less and people will listen more.
Really
It'll kill the noise.
Yeah.
And it'll allow more people to be aware of what you're doing as a church.
Yeah.
That's really helpful.
It is. And I think it's counterintuitive, maybe, right? Because I think often we think, well, I want people to listen more, so I need to do more, right? More content, more places, more things. It's like, actually, no, there's a lot of power in that focus.
But it's hard.
It's
Focus
harder, yes.
And
I was just going to say, absolutely.
So I get to speak a lot, and when I do my consulting with churches, oftentimes I do 8 hours where I speak for 8. I would rather prepare for 8 hours. I just did a keynote address, and they said you have 20 minutes,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah.
in order to focus a talk and edit down to 20 minutes and kill the noise around it, it took me probably 3 times as much time to prepare than what I actually did in the presentation. And that's where, in the church world, avoid noise at all costs.
Yeah.
Focus, try to get one thing that is a big one takeaway.
Yeah.
It's difficult, but it really needs to be done.
I feel like we have a word theme to this episode, but I heard this word a while ago, and it stuck with me when it comes to communicating, but capacious.
Ooh.
Capacious in...
Teach us your ways.
I think I'm saying that correctly.
Triple bonus Scrabble word.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, a lot of points in Scrabble on that one. But it's basically like having a lot of power in what you're saying a lot with a little.
Yeah.
So simple. It's kind of like you said, how do you spend 3 hours to prepare for 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So that 20 minutes, delivers all that power.
Well, it makes a ton of sense. 'Cause, like we said, we've got a lot of very small staffs. The work is so much. So you cannot do it all. You literally can't. So what can I do? What is most important? What is the biggest priority? do that. Start there. To your point about like, well, I need a communications staff member. I literally cannot do that. Well, what can I do? I could maybe bring on a consultant one time to help build the strategy. Go. Now I've got the roadmap. Okay, I just needed the map. Okay, I can plug that in.
Absolutely.
I can really pare this down by asking for help. Maybe if I can't add a staffer, I can at least get the template. Help me pare this down. Help me find my focus. Help me find my thread. So I know what to do, and then everything else kind of gets a little easier.
Oh my goodness. Like the thing is that when you do have that one thing you're going to concentrate on, and that all of your ministries kind of unite under that one brand, so you're a branded house rather than a house of brands, all of a sudden it just calms everything down, and it makes it so much easier. Like you have to do that heavy lifting at the very beginning, and then it does get easier.
I had a pastor once that a very, very large church, but did not do a lot of ministries and got asked all the time, hey, why don't we do kids camp? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? Like the things that a lot of churches do. And he was so firm in, we do 5 things.
Amen.
And it was like the weekend experience. And it was very, very, very targeted. And there was still a lot to do, but it really helped when there was an idea. The no became so simple. Not harsh, but that is not one of our 5 things.
Yeah.
So we're actually I can tell you some great churches that do that. That might be one of their 5 things or one of their 50 things, but it's not one of our 5.
Yeah.
So I love that.
And really, it goes to the point where if you're a solo pastor trying to do it all right now, don't do it all.
You can't.
You can't do it all.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as a solo pastor realizes that, God uses that to grow.
Yeah.
So your church will start to grow. People will start knowing what your church is for. At Be Known for Something, we have, like everybody has a to-do list. So we have to-don't pads because
I love that.
as part of your brand, as part of your thread, like there are certain things we just probably won't do here. And like you have to do it graciously.
Yeah.
And, the person who's just come up with that great idea that is awful.
Yeah.
You just have to say.
The buffet, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have the buffet.
Hey.
So we're not going to do that.
We're going to have to hit pause on the buffet ministry.
It's not one of our 5 things.
We'll put that with the crocheting ministry.
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
I love that.
That's good. Yeah. Well, one thing we always ask everybody who is on this show, again, the goal is conversations to empower healthy churches. There's a lot that makes up a healthy church. So we like to always hear what our guest has to say around what's one essential component of a healthy church.
A church who knows who they are and fiercely protects it.
Yeah.
So, and this kind of comes full circle. When I was singing, I became the funeral singer in my community, which just seemed really crazy. But next door to the big agency I work for, there was a funeral home, and they asked, would you come over and sing at funerals? So I did a lot of funerals, and there's in funerals, there were so many people that got up and said, that person didn't even know the impact that they had on my life.
Right.
And I'm thinking, they didn't even know who the whole concept of be known for something became very critical. And it really ties in with my branding background. We need to figure out who we are. What do you want to be known for? And if your ministry, God forbid, just disappears, what would people miss if you weren't there?
Yeah.
And if you're not controlling that message, then it's going to be missed.
Yeah.
I love that. I've always kind of come back. It's very similar. Like, if you weren't here, what need in your community, what person would have nowhere else to find that resource? If they have plenty of other resources, then what need should you be filling? Because you're filling a need that's like clearly not a need. But if you weren't here, there should be a gap. And if not, like, what are we doing?
Well, and oftentimes I think that the church kind of does exactly what other churches do.
Sure. Right.
So that when they leave, it's like, oh, they're gone. Another church,
well,
we'll just go to another church.
We got that one.
And,
Go right
and
across
that's
the
why
street.
the brand, the thread needs to be unique.
Yeah.
So it might be offered in another church, but they're not concentrating on it, and you're going to concentrate on it. So, and if we can do that, then you do find that hole that you're filling, and then you make sure that everyone you're controlling the message so that they know that this is the hole that we're filling.
This is who we are. Yeah. This is what we do.
So, like during COVID, a lot of people stopped coming to church, and then we're wondering, so a third of those people have still not come back.
Right.
Well, the reason why is because they didn't know what they're missing, because you're not controlling that language. So somehow we need to control the language so that when they don't come on Sunday, you can say, so you're probably missing this in your life. And it's like, you know what? I need to come back.
Yeah. That's really good.
It's good.
I love it. All right, we're going to jump into our final five.
Ooh.
It's a little rapid fire. I know, daunting.
Does it have to have big words?
It can. Optional.
Okay. I'll try.
This episode's sponsored by Webster's Dictionary. Check out a Webster's near you, if that exists still. I think it does.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. There must be an app for that.
I'm sure. Yeah. All right, first one. What's one book you'd recommend for church leaders?
Well, mine.
You certainly can say
absolutely.
Can I say mine?
Yeah.
So be known for something, and it really is helping you reconnect with your community by revitalizing your reputation.
Nice.
Figure out what you want to be known for, and then how do you discover the thread? And the book is written in a workbook style, so at the end of every chapter, it actually asks questions of. So it's a great book to read through with your whole leadership team.
I'm such a sucker for a workbook. I
am too. I sometimes skip chapters and just see if I can answer the questions.
I know. I'm such a dork. All right, Mark, what is the last thing that you listened to, like on Apple, Spotify, whatever?
And I'm awful. And I know with my music background, I don't sing anymore. I find it incredibly distracting to have music on when I'm working. If I am doing pure design work, I always go to either Amazon Music or Spotify, and I choose a mood.
Oh, okay.
So,
those are so helpful.
They are, but I somehow feel like it's a disservice to that artist who has crafted the message of those songs that I'm ignoring.
Sure.
And most people will go, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I say, I don't think I've ever heard of them. And then they'll say the tune.
Yeah.
And I'll go, oh no, that's in
my Walkman board.
Exactly.
It's in the Chill Relaxed playlist.
It stood out so much that I didn't even know that I was listening to it.
Exactly. So I write a lot. So when I'm writing, I can't have other words being bombarded around me. So
nice.
So sadly, I sit quietly in my office.
With your inner dialogue.
Yes.
That could be, what's the last thing you listen to? My inner
own
dialogue.
voice yelling at me. Yeah.
We should do a podcast called The Christian's Inner Dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
Just the voice inside my head.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a good subtitle.
Help me get it out.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should air that.
I love it. Yeah. We'll air other people's.
Yeah, exactly.
Just the host of it. Yeah. Well, what is your, and you can't say your phone. We have to put some parameters around this one. But outside of your phone, what's your favorite piece of technology?
Yeah, because the phone thing, like it's crazy what we had, the power we have in our pockets.
So wild.
It is. So if I have to skip past that, it's going to sound really crazy, but my iRobot.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Which it vacuums our house and it's on a schedule and it has the little brush thing that gets really close to the baseboards.
That's sweet.
No one has said that yet.
Oh, really?
No, I like it.
I love it. Yeah.
Sponsored by iRobot.
Does yours have a docking station that self-cleans?
It does. Oh, absolutely.
Because that was a game changer for me.
Oh, so you have one?
Yes.
Oh, you guys are in the robot vacuum
I also have
game.
an iRobot mop.
I do too. I was just going to ask that. So, anyway, but...
Hardwood floors and a dog and 2 children.
Oh.
Yes, I have them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
she get an actual robot.
Let's bow in prayer right now.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I mean, it is a game changer. Like this whole home stuff that like
automated
and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it really gets into AI. That would probably be like the after iRobot. No, AI is probably even more so than but it's not an actual instrument.
Sure.
But AI is going to change everything.
Yeah.
Already is.
Yeah.
I know.
It's going to be
iRobot
fascinating.
needs to have AI worked into it.
I'm sure she's working on it.
I noticed that you walked several times through this hallway. I'm going to go clean it for you.
I like that. Okay, or do you have a quote or a piece of wisdom, advice that has just really stuck with you over the years?
Ooh. Okay, so it's so crazy, but I'm a detail person. And I'm also, I set a really high bar for myself and a high standard for our work and our client stuff. So back in high school, a girlfriend taught me good, better, best. Never let it rest till the good is better and the better is the best. And it sticks like that whole don't sweat the small stuff. I need to write a book called Sweat the Small Stuff.
All the small stuff.
I know.
Get super sweaty about the small stuff.
And identify a standard and try to exceed it every single time. That's probably why I have the inner dialogue.
As a struggling, hopefully soon to be recovering, we'll see, perfectionist.
Yeah.
That resonates with me. I'm like, yes and amen. Like, so it's good.
And that's why we have a zero inbox policy.
Exactly.
And
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll wrap this up because Casey has 4,000 emails to check and
give or
respond
take.
to.
Exactly. If you've emailed Casey lately, if she hasn't gotten back to you,
to the problem.
We can tell you why.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm working on it.
All right, last one. Just one thing that you'd like to communicate to our audience of church leaders.
Pastors, you put the work in, you know your stuff. Now figure out your communication so you're actually heard.
Love it.
Kill noise as much as possible. Calm things. Say less so that people will listen more.
It's really good. Can you give us just a quick rundown where people can find out more about you, about the work you all are doing, how they might be able to get in touch with you?
Oh, absolutely. So beknownforsomething.com is probably you'll find everything there. But most of the social media channels, I'm under Mark Mac 1023.
Cool.
Or Be Known for Something, or Mark MacDonald, and it's Mark MacDonald.
So
MAC.
Wouldn't it be kind of funny if I said, give us a rundown? You're like, well, we don't have a website quite yet.
Oh, yes.
We're working on it.
That would just be the ultimate, throw everyone wait a second.
Wait, what?
Yeah, really, I want all the churches to have a website, but I don't think I need
Take
one.
everything I said, throw all of my credibility right out the window.
No, and probably on the beknownforsomething.com/subscribe, or just click on the subscribe link. And I just had my 800th magazine article published.
Wow.
So as each one gets published, we actually send it out via email.
Cool.
Awesome.
You could have more emails.
I will get my email, yes.
And,
I would read yours,
and it gives
actually.
some really good tips and tricks along the way.
That's
well,
awesome.
and I've read a lot of those, learned from a lot of those, both over the years and recently and stuff. And so, would highly recommend that to those listening to check that out, because it's just a lot of really high quality free resources to get better at a lot of what we talked about. So thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, for having this conversation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.